Hello YouTube, I've been watching lots of Stephen King book collections on YouTube recently, and I thought I would show mine. So I collect Stephen King hardcovers. I try to get as many first editions as I can. Not all of them are first editions though, but I have 52 hardcovers right now, including some curious editions that I didn't even know existed before I found them. So I'm going to go through them and show you what I've got. Okay, so of course I'm going to show them to you in chronological order. So first one is Carrie. I wish this was a true first edition, but I can't afford them. That said, this one still has a price on the dust jacket, $17.95, so you can tell it's not the first edition because I think it was more like $8.99 or something like that at the time. And if you look at the copyright page, obviously this is at least a 10th printing. That said, the book is in perfect shape, unread. I'm not sure when this was actually printed because there's no date, but that's all I can afford in terms of the original Carrie, so very pleased with it. Next one on the list is Salem's Lot, sorry. So same thing, this is a more recent reprint. Again, 1995, that was absolutely not the price at the time. What's curious about this one though, it's again in very good shape, is that it has all the looks of a more recent, of a classic edition, because it does say Father Callahan, so you can say it's the very first edition at Father Cody here by mistake. But if you look at the copyright page, again, yeah, it's the 13th printing. So when I bought this on eBay, I was a bit missold. I thought it was an older edition, but at least the book is in good shape. Next one, The Shining. So again, this is not at all a real first edition. There's no price, so that's a book club edition. But at this stage, I just wanted to read it again in hardcover version. So at one stage, I'll try to get a real first edition. The same goes for Night Shift. It's a book club edition. Still in very, very good shape, so happy to have that for now. Now, Firestarter. This one I was missold again. The seller said it was a true first edition and it's a book club. I kept it because, again, it's in tip-top shape, and at one stage I switch it for a real one. Okay, the Gunslinger. So I don't have the real true first editions because again, they're super rare and super pricey. So these are the newest re-releases, but they're very nice, with lots of illustrations. And this is, oops, if it will focus, this is the first edition of that particular reprint of the extended version, basically in hardcover. So that's nice. Pet Cemetery. So this one is not in great shape. As you can see, the dust jacket is has seen better days. This one is also a bit puzzling to me, because one of the clues to recognize the first edition is the fact that it says on the back of the dust jacket, in 1982 for caretakers. Later edition had this corrected to 1983. It also has the correct price for first edition, which is $15.95. Also has the correct code on the dust jacket, 1183, but where is it? Yes, the code here for Real Tradition is supposed to be Y38, and you can't really see, but it's definitely a 4 after the Y. So it could be still first edition later printing, because even the inscription says Christmas 1983, so it was definitely bought on the year this was published. But here, first editions would say first edition right under printed in the US. So I don't know exactly when, what kind of, if it's maybe second, third printing, I don't know, but it's definitely not the first printing. Now, the Talisman. So this one is a first edition, so $18.95 price on the dust jacket. These ones are harder to recognize, but basically if you have the price, if it says first published in 1984 by Viking Penguin, and if it has that code on the dust jacket, 11182584, then that's all you need to know. That's the first edition. Okay, next we have Thinner by Richard Bachman, of course, aka Stephen King. This one I can't remember actually. The problem is the price was clipped when I bought this one, so already it loses some of its value. Now, no, this is not a first edition. It's the 6th printing of the first edition, basically. That's what it looks like. So, good enough, but not as collectible. It is in very good shape. Looks unread. Still very nice to have an original copy of Thinner with a fake Richard Bachman picture here. Now, one of my favorites, like everybody else, this is a first edition. I'm very happy with this one. So the price would be $22.95. The code on the dust jacket would be 09221086, and on the copyright page, first published in 1986 by Viking Penguin. Yeah. So that's it. This one is in good enough shape. The binding is a bit damaged, but I'm not going to complain. It's the first edition of one of my favorite books. Next, we go back to the newest version of the Dark Tower books. So now we have the drawing of the tree, and this one is not. Oh yes, it is. Oh no, it's not. It's the second printing of this new edition. So yeah, close but no cigar. But still, it's in very good shape. At one stage, I'll try to find the real first one. Now the stand, obviously this is the revised, complete and uncut version. I don't have the original book, but I prefer this version anyway. And this, if I'm not mistaken, is a first edition. Sadly, the price was clipped. I guess it was a gift, so it loses some of its value here. But this one is easy to spot because it does say here, first trade edition, May 1990. Okay, moving on to my second pile of books. 4 Past Midnight. So this one I can't remember. It's definitely a real copy, not a book club edition. Sadly, there's an inscription. I buy most of these on eBay or Abe Books, stuff like that. Can't remember if this one is first edition. Let's have a look. And yes, it is. So these ones I prefer when there's the number line like this, because if number 1 is showing in the number line. That means it's definitely a first edition. I wish they were all like this. It would be much easier to spot. Needful Things. This was the first one I bought when I decided to collect my all these hardcover books from Stephen King. So at the time I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and this one is, I thought it was the first edition when I bought it, but it's the 3rd printing. Still, I love this book, so I was very happy to get it in hardcover form. I read most of them in paperback when they came out. Okay, The Westlands, still in this new edition, and I believe this one is the first edition of that new version. Yes, it is. Gerald's Game. I was fooled by the seller again. This is a book club edition. Really pissed off when I received it. I'd have to get rid of it and find a real one. Dolores Claiborne. So this one is the real one. Yes, there's a price here. And it is a first edition. Woohoo! Nightmares and Dreamscapes, one of my favorite covers. It's really beautiful. Real copy. First edition. Let's go to Rose Madder. Beautiful cover as well. I really like this one. So this one I got for only £5. It's a real copy, and I believe it is the first edition. Yep. The Green Mile. So obviously this was published in a different format. In 6 little episodes were published in 6 little paperbacks separately. But this is the first time it was published in hardcover. First hardcover publication. Sadly, I don't believe it's the first edition of it. I mean, it's the real edition, but I don't believe it's the first printing. No. It does say first Scribner edition, but it's the 7th printing. Desperation, another great cover. Real copy, great. Can't remember if this one is, yes, first edition too. Wizard and Glass, the last in the newest edition. They were bloody expensive at the time, $40. Wow. I can't remember how much I paid for this, but it definitely wasn't $40. And good thing, because it's not a first printing, second printing. Shame. Okay, let's carry on. So this is the only book in my hardcover collection that's the British edition. I live in London, so the reason why I got this one is that Stephen King at the time came to London for the first time in 15 or 20 years. And it was just as Bag of Bones was released. So I got to queue up and have the book signed by him, which is obviously, there we go. He really signed this in front of me. So that's one of my prized possessions. And of course, it's also the first printing of the British edition, as I got it in the shop just before he signed it for me. So that's the only signed copy I have. Not sure how much it's worth now, but I'm definitely holding to that one. Next, so Storm of the Century is a bit of a curiosity, I guess. There's lots of copies out there and they're quite cheap. But it was never published in hardcover form apart from this book club edition. So funnily enough, there was only one edition of this, so there's no price, of course, but that's the only hardcover first edition of this book. So there's nothing in the copyright page except this edition was specially created for Book of the Month Club in 1999 by arrangement with the author. And I believe that's the only hardcover edition of that book. I may be wrong, but from what I've seen online, I think that's the case. So this is obviously not a novel, it's a screenplay, but still really cool to have if you're a collector like me and you want to have all Stephen King hardcovers. This is definitely one to get. Next, okay, so from now on we're entering the Scribner books. So they all are super easy to identify with the number line 1 to 10. So if 1 is there, again, it's the first edition. So I believe from here, all the books I have are first editions. I may have a couple that are not, but we'll have a quick look. So The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. First edition. Hearts in Atlantis. Yeah, first edition. Dreamcatcher. I've seen, watching other book collections on YouTube, I see this one gets lots of hate. Lots of people say they don't like it. I thought it was pretty entertaining. Of course, it's not his best one, but for me, the worst, the most boring one is the Tommyknockers. And I still don't have it. I will have to buy it at one stage, but that's the one I really, really struggled to finish. This one I thought was a page turner. I mean, yeah, it was ridiculous, the shit whistles and everything, but it was good, stupid fun in my book. And pardon the pun. Obviously, Stephen King was recovering from his accident when he wrote this one, so he was taking lots of painkillers. That may be why it's a bit weird. But I like it. The movie is awful though. I mean, the book is 10 times better than the movie. The ending of the movie is such an atrocity. It should be removed from circulation, really. Okay, so this one again doesn't have much love from what I've seen. It's okay. I prefer Dreamcatcher to this one, to be fair. It's okay, nothing special. But I believe this one is also, yes, the first edition. Okay, now moving on to the latest Dark Tower books, published by Donald E. Grant. I can't remember if this is a first edition or not. Let's have a look. Yes, so the Grant books are easier to recognize because on top of the number line they do have first trade edition printed, so that makes it much easier. I didn't realize this was distributed by Scribner. Grant is a division of Scribner? Okay, I didn't know that. You learn something every day. Song of Susanna, again, people tend to not like the later Dark Tower books, but I thought they were all good, and I was really surprised when I finally got to read this one, that it was very enjoyable. Again, lots of people were like, oh, it's the worst in the series. I didn't think so. I thought it was really great. Is this one a first edition? Let's have a look. Yes, first trade edition. And now, of course, the final book. And I believe it's also, yes, first trade edition. And again, the ending, love it or hate it. Personally, I thought it was a perfect ending. I don't see how it could have ended a different way. Okay, now that's a curiosity. the Colorado Kid in hardcover version. And this, for me, I had no idea it even existed. The Colorado Kid was only published in paperback. I've never seen anywhere mention of a hardcover. But I found this one, and it's a first edition too. And it's actually published by Case Crime, but the big twist is that it's a large print edition. So you can see the text just on the dust jacket is much larger. Here's the price, $27. So it's a large print book. I didn't realize it was ever printed in that format. First large print edition. I don't know how many copies of these were made, but of course the text, as you can see, the font is much larger. But because I collect, hardcovers, I thought it was really cool to find a hardcover version of the Colorado Kid. It's not even supposed to exist. So yeah, very, very happy with that one. I think it's a rarity. I don't care if it's large print, as long as it's hardcover and first edition, I'm happy with it. Cell, another one who has a bad rep. And again, is it his best book? No. Is it entertaining? Yes, absolutely. I read this one as I was flying back from holiday, on a very long haul flight. And it did keep me entertained. First edition. Okay, next. Lizzie's Story. Very interesting book, very different, with a beautiful bound cover under the dust jacket. If you read the book, it all makes sense. Lots of people dislike this one as well. Apparently it's Stephen King's most personal book, or that's how he describes it. And I really enjoyed it. Again, first edition. Do McKee. So lots of people love this one, and it's one of my least favorites. I thought it started really, really well, but then started to drag a bit, and I thought the ending was been here, seen that before. There was nothing really special about it. But it's the first edition as well. And beautiful cover. I think I have to revisit that one. At the time when I read it, I wasn't that impressed. Under the Dome. Ooh, thick book. If you've seen the TV series and have not read the book, read the book. The TV series is nothing like the book. It's the same principle, the same basics story at the very beginning, but then everything that happens in the book is completely different. There's no eggs or stuff like that. It's a long read. Yeah, the ending is not the best, but for me, this one is definitely about the journey, not the destination. You don't want it to end, really. First edition. Moving on, so now we're getting to the most recent ones, really. Full Dark, No Stars. Great book. Very dark stories. Of course, it's a first edition, because now I started to collect all these books like 7 years ago. So now each time there's a new book announced, it's pre-ordered on Amazon, so I always get the first edition of the new ones. 11/22/63. Fantastic book. Oops. First edition. The Wind Through the Keyhole. I haven't read that one yet. I have to go back to Midworld and finish the saga. It's really like a side story. It's not really part of the main story. But I heard great things about it. Oh, next is another curiosity. Joyland, such exactly the same story as the Colorado Kid, was never published supposedly in hardcover format. But here it is. And he has this nice illustration of the park on the reverse side of the dust jacket. But here's the twist: there's no price. This is a book club edition, and this is the only edition, I believe, that was released in hardcover format. So if you want the hardcover, it has to be book club edition. Yeah, and I think it could be just a British book club edition as well. I'm not sure, because you have the full London address here, but it does say printed in the US. So I'm not sure where it came from. I can't remember. I just remember seeing this online and on eBay probably, and being, what? A hardcover edition of Joyland? I must have it. So there it is. And the front cover is completely different from the paperback as well. Really cool. So this is also kind of a, I guess only collectors would buy this one. This was published by Cemetery Dance a few years back. It's a very short book. It's a poem by Stephen King about the Dark Man, aka Randall Flagg. That's illustrated, but basically, yeah, you have only a sentence or a few words per page. So, you know, does it qualify as a Stephen King book? I'm not sure. But it's a hardcover by Stephen King, and this is the first hardcover edition. So there it is. Doctor Sleep. I still haven't read it. Unbelievable. And the movie is about to come out in a few weeks. I don't know why I haven't read this one. I've got a pile of about 10 Stephen King books I still have to read after buying them, because I've been rereading some of the classics as well. So the most recent ones are still on the waiting list. But I've heard great things, so can't wait. So basically, I think most of the next ones I haven't read. Revival also was very well received. I think a movie is in the pipeline, so I don't want to do like for Doctor Sleep. I want to read it first. Okay, Mr. Mercedes. I started to read it, but still have a long way to go. Obviously, I haven't read the next two in the trilogy. I've stayed clear of the TV series on Hulu, because I want to read the book first. Okay, we're getting to the final section now. The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. This one I've read. Some good stories, some not so good stories, some were a bit boring. So it is what it is, it's okay. Finders Keepers. And End of Watch. Beautiful cover. Of course, all of these I'm just showing you for the sake of it, but they're so recent, they're all first editions, of course. Another monster, I still haven't read it, Sleeping Beauties with Owen King. I haven't heard great things. I heard it drags quite a lot, but I'll have to find out for myself. Okay, the next ones I have read or I'm in the process of reading. This one, Stephen King and I'm not sure how to pronounce Richard Kismar, I guess. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. This one, for a while, I didn't want to buy it because I thought it was just a novella that was, published as a collector item, only to be probably reprinted in a short story collection one day. But then I thought, oh, what am I doing? I'm supposed to collect hardcover books. So I did, and sadly, by the time I did, it was no longer a first printing. So this is the first edition, but the third printing. The book is fine, it's very short, very enjoyable, very short read, but not the greatest either. Okay, The Outsider, one of the most recent ones. This one I really enjoyed. Very interesting premise. The ending is okay. It's more about the journey once more, I think. And now we're down to the last two. So this one also I resisted getting for a while for the same reason as Gwendy's Button Box. A novel, really. I mean, it's like 150 pages long at most. You read it in a couple hours. But same thing, I got it only last week. And I was pleased that I managed to get the first printing as well. Very small book compared to the others. Tiny book, but... And of course the last one was just released last week, I believe, a couple of weeks ago, which I am reading now. You can see fingerprints on the protective cover. I'm 200 pages in, so far it's really good. Can't wait to see where the story goes, and of course it is a first edition because it's 2 weeks old. And so that's it, but I have a final unusual item in my Stephen King collection. What is this? Okay, Stephen King wrote a... How would you say? It's a musical that was actually produced on stage, in a few cities. I think they did a small tour. He wrote the book, and John Mellencamp wrote the music, and T-Bone Burnett did the musical direction. So that's Ghost Brothers of Darkland County. It has a surprising all-star cast. You have Chris Christopherson, Rosen Cash, Elvis Costello. I don't know all the names, so let's just see. We have Sheryl Crow, and for some of the non-singing parts, we have Meg Ryan, Matthew McConaughey. What is this? So I read about this, I think, on his website when it was published in 2013. So I found this on eBay. And what you get, it's actually a book. I mean, it's a book. It's the musical, all the songs and some of the dialogue on 2 CDs. Two CDs. You also have a DVD, which is a behind-the-scenes look at the in the studio. But it's also interesting for a Stephen King collector because you have the whole play. So the prologue with all the dialogue by each character. So it's a bit like Storm of the Century. It's not a screenplay. It's a musical book that includes all the dialogue that King wrote for all the characters. So for the songs, it's all in caps. The actual dialogue is lower caps. But it's very interesting. It's And you can, of course, listen to it following, playing the CDs and following the story in the book. Not all of the dialogue is on the CDs, sadly, but I would say 3/4 of the dialogue is there. The songs, some are good, some are passable, but you know, it's not really about the music for me. It's more about the story, the fact that Stephen King wrote that story. And you know, it's 100 pages long like this. The story is fun. It's an interesting one. I wish they would turn this into a movie actually, because it would be fun to have a Stephen King movie musical, especially with the all-star cast they had for the recording. You know, I don't think when they did a tour, I think it was mostly in the South. Of course, all these stars I mentioned were not in the tour in the production on the tour. This was purely for the for this edition when they went to the studio to record the CDs. But I thought I would show this off because I'm sure not many people know about this. And if you can find it on eBay, I think I got it for $20 to maybe $25 at the time. But I got it at the time it was released, so a few years back. I don't know if it's still readily available or not, but look into it. It's interesting. And that's it for my Stephen King collection. So I hope you enjoyed it, and feel free to comment to let me know which are your favorites, or to post your own collection on YouTube as well. Thank you very much, and bye.